I have on my screen here a guy named John Cooper. He's apparently the lead singer of a band called Skillet. Now, Skillet is apparently a pretty popular band. I had no idea. But it's like a kind of a metal band or whatever, and they went mainstream, straight up. They're mainstream, but they're a Christian band, like giga, ultra, nutter butter of epic proportions level Christian. So he appears, John Cooper, the lead singer, he appears on this pro-Trump TV show. Yeah, I have a cat in my lap here. I don't know. You may be able to see the bottom of her. Anyway, or the top of her. Anyways, they appeared on this pro-Trump extremist TV show where they commonly have, like, what do you call it? Like televangelists, prophets of God and stuff like that on to lay down prophecy. So I wanted to listen to what they had to say. I think that they're going to talk about like Israel and Palestine and some other subjects. So I'm going to just jump to the introductions. Oh, yeah. Dinesh D'Souza is on here also, and Lance Walnut. These people are insane. Anyway, let's give it a listen. While we listen to this, we are going to play some Final Fantasy VII Remake. I haven't made it all the way through the game. I've just kind of been moseying my way through it or whatever. It's just something to do. Anyway, all right, let's give it a listen, shall we?
I never realized when I started presenting and teaching on 7 Mountains of Culture 20 years ago.
Oh my God, 7 Mountains of Culture. Holy shit. I'm going to have to talk about this, aren't I? Okay. Let's talk about this real quick. In 1902, there's this document that appeared. It was called the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, okay? And it was originally 27 or I think 27 different protocols. It was just like they were each published in newspapers in Tsarist Russia before World War I. They were like this long. And the claim was that these protocols were found on a dead Jewish soldier, and they were originally from the elders of the Jewish community, and they were the Jewish plan for world domination. That's obviously completely made up. It was not found on a dead Jewish soldier. It was fabricated almost certainly by the Okhrana, which was the predecessor to the KGB. In 1905, it was published in, all of them were published in a book called The Protocols of the Meetings of the Learned Elders of Zion. That was the name of the book originally. So between 1902 and 1905, they were published in newspapers, and then they were compiled into a book. Now, I have a copy of that book, as a matter of fact. You can find this book on the FBI website because throughout the generations, this book has been reproduced over and over and over again. Hitler mentioned it in his book Mein Kampf. Henry Ford, the guy that invented vehicles, he also made copies of this and mailed them out. He used a printing press to mass produce these. And in the 1970s, there was another person that was printing these out and mailing them to people around the United States. And that's when this copy was mailed in to the FBI and said, hey, somebody is printing these out and sending them out to people if you wanted to look into this. Of course, it's not illegal to own one or print it out or whatever. It's just anti-Jewish propaganda. So what is it exactly? Quick interjection, this won't take long. I just want to say, if you want to support my channel, the best way you can do it is by watching this video to the end, or at least watching a little bit longer than you would have otherwise. YouTube's recommendation algorithm works off of watch time. You can also subscribe to the channel, like the video, and check out my Patreon. Link is in the description for that. All right, back to the video. It's anti-Jewish propaganda that dates back thousands of years. Every accusation you'll find against the Jewish community is in this. It's very obviously not written by Jewish people. Let me just show you what I mean. This is Protocol 2. Let me just give this a read, see if any of this sounds familiar to you, okay? We must see to that wars be brought on economic grounds, putting the nations at the mercy of our international agenter, when our international rights of gold will wipe out all national rights. Our employees chosen from the Goyim cattle, Goyim being a derogatory term for non-Jews, kind of like Gentile, except it's like a slur. That's how it's phrased, basically, in this document. Our employees chosen from the Goyim cattle must be of a type that submit to blind and servile obedience to our specialists and advisors who've been trained from childhood to rule the affairs of the world. These are not empty words. Think of the successes we arranged for Darwinism, Marxism, Nietzscheism, etc. To us, the Jews, really, to us, the Jews. Because we didn't know it was Jews before, so they wanted to make sure that we knew that this is Jews that wrote this. So they put that in there. To us, Jews, this is a joke. Seriously, who actually bought this? Who really believed any of this nonsense? What we're reading here with the to us, comma, Jews, comma, this is called exposition. If you've never heard of exposition, I'll have this cute redhead explain it for me. Here's this cute redhead explaining exposition. Check this out.
My favourite part of a film is exposition, which is when one character tells another character something that both of them already know. Gentlemen, you already know that the Raven has struck again. Now, I don't need to remind you that we are cops.
The Raven's a myth. Michael, how long have we known each other? 10 years?
Joey, you're my brother. Longer than 10 years.
Sorry, do I have to call Mom to establish that you and I are siblings?
Don't call Mom.
I'm calling Mom. Hold on.
Hello, Mom?
Mikey, it's me, your elderly and/or Jewish mother.
Yeah,
Just calling to
Mom.
say that you're still single and your career's going nowhere.
Mom, listen to me, will you? If I don't catch the Raven, they're gonna close the precinct.
Close the precinct? But it's Christmas.
You think I don't know that? Ghost of a child who died on my first case. And that's how exposition works. But of course, you already knew that. There's a wall there.
This guy is fantastic. By the way, that's the title of the video. Cute Redhead Explains How Movies Work. And it's on the Alasdair Beckett King YouTube channel, I think. Anyways, even at the end, this subtle joke here.
You already knew that. There's a wall there.
Even that was just an absolutely on-point joke. In film, there's something called breaking the fourth wall, where the fourth wall is the viewer that's watching. You're breaking the wall there because you're talking to the viewer. When somebody in film talks to the viewer, you're breaking the fourth wall. And he walks right into this wall and says, oh, there's a wall here, after breaking the fourth wall. Everything about this video is on point. Anyway, the point is, back to the Protocols of the Elders of Zion. Think of the successes we've arranged for Darwinism, Marxism, Nietzscheism, etc. To us, Jews, comma, it is plain what a destructively blah, blah, blah. Really? The exposition is painfully obvious in this. Anyways, it is plain what a destructively disintegrating force these directives have had upon the minds of the Goyim cattle, that being Darwinism and Marxism and Nietzscheism. Sounding familiar, right? All this stuff about Marxism, just about every conspiracy theory you can think of has come out of the Protocols of the Elders of Zion. And again, there are somewhere in the range of 27, I think, 18, 19, 20, 21, 23. They're all out of order. Yeah, I think there are 27 of them. And it's a whole book. Anyways, the belief that Jews drink blood, or adrenochrome, the idea that evil people are coming to take kids and suck their blood out of their arms like they're sticking a straw in a Capri Sun. That came from the Protocols of the Elders of Zion.
The White Hats tainted the elites' adrenochrome supply with the coronavirus, and that's why so many members of the elites are getting the coronavirus, if indeed they do have the coronavirus. So adrenochrome is a drug that the elites love. It comes from children. The drug is extracted from the pituitary gland of tortured children.
That was originally an anti-Jewish conspiracy theory called blood libel. QAnon's beliefs, pretty much all of them, came out of the Protocols of the Elders of Zion. QAnon, whether they realize it or not, is a rebranded Nazi death cult. Seriously. They may not even know. Cancel culture came out of this. Fear of Marxism and communism and Darwinism, all of it came out of this. Fascinatingly, a reporter discovered that this set of protocols, this book, basically, 80% of it was plagiarized from a French satire book written in 1854. 80% came out of this French satire book that wasn't even about Jews. The idea that Jews control the big banks and the media and everything, something that was actually echoed in Osama bin Laden's letter to America, that's from Protocols of the Elders of Zion. Cancel culture, blood libel about people eating babies or drinking children's blood or whatever, that's from Protocols of the Elders of Zion. Marxism, Darwinism, communism being evil and being used to destroy society, Protocols of the Elders of Zion. Great Replacement Conspiracy, where people are trying to bring in immigrants from other countries to outweigh votes. You know, like Donald Trump has claimed in the past, or Tucker Carlson, the Democrats are bussing in Mexicans to vote in our elections. Completely made up from the Protocols of the Elders of Zion.
I know that the left and all the little gatekeepers on Twitter become literally hysterical if you use the term replacement, if you suggest that the Democratic Party is trying to replace the current electorate, the voters now casting ballots, with new people, more obedient voters from the third world. But they become hysterical because that's what's happening, actually. Let's just say it. That's true. The power that I have as an American, guaranteed at birth, is one man, one vote, and they're diluting it. No, they're not allowed to do that. Why are we putting up with this?
Even though a lot of people like Tucker want you to believe that all immigrants are very left-wing, the truth is that Cubans and Venezuelans are not very left-wing. There are lots of Asian immigrants that are not left-wing. There are many Eastern European immigrants that are not left-wing. Anyway, let's imagine that naturalized immigrants by a 60-40 margin vote for Democrats. That means that for every 500,000 immigrants that become citizens, that's only a 100,000 vote margin for Democrats. When you compare that to population growth, when you compare that to people who move between states, it's a drop in the bucket when you talk about bringing people in, having them wait the 5 years before they can request citizenship, and then the additional period to go through that process. If this is how Democrats are trying to win, it's a very stupid strategy.
The idea that they're trying to enslave the world, the Great Reset conspiracy, like all of this stuff is from Protocols. It's all made up nonsense. So I said that it was the Jews' plan for world domination. Let me show you what the actual outlined plan was in this fabricated, plagiarized, fake book about Jews. By the way, source of almost all anti-Semitism over the past 1,000 years, or at least it's all compiled into one source. There's a thing called the Seven Mountains Mandate. Lance Wallnau explains it for us pretty clearly. Just listen to Lance's breakdown of what Seven Mountains dominionism is. This is evangelicals' plan to take over the United States and take it from the hands of just normal people that aren't extremist nutcases. This plan was outlined in the Protocols of the Elders of Zion.
3% of the population, roughly 3 to 4% of the population, are radical leftist elites. 30% of the population are evangelical born-again Christians that are inclined to go towards Pentecostal language. I mean, we're really out there. 30% against 3%, but they neutralize the church because they're also in religion. They changed the definition of marriage, so they've taken over family. They've totally taken over academia, so the education institutions are teaching leftist theology.
He's listing the 7 mountains, the 7 pillars of society: education, military, economy, government, so on and so forth. And his whole idea, also the idea of the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, was to take control of those areas. Just get your 3% of the people to the top of these areas of society, and you can control everybody else.
They're controlling government right now. They've taken over legacy media, Hollywood, entertainment, and arts.
I mean, who is they in this scenario? Certainly left-wing or left-leaning Jews, right? I mean, who controls Hollywood? It's the Jews, right? That's one of the biggest conspiracy theories that's stuck. Hollywood and entertainment and media and everything is all controlled by the Jews. He is now saying that it's simply people to the left of hunting the homeless for sport, I guess. But at its core, This entire thing is an anti-Semitic conspiracy.
And now they've got Wall Street. This is 3%. 30% of the population is Christian. How is it that 30% are dominated by 3%? They have a worldview for bringing their kingdom here now. We're told to pray thy kingdom come, but we put it off to the second coming.
Jesus was supposed to have taken control and become the king. You're not supposed to impose your kingdom on society, but okay, whatever.
We put it off. They are organized.
Who is they? Nobody is organized to take this stuff over. This is psychotic. It's a full-blown conspiracy theory trying to whip people into a blood frenzy and freak them out to the point that they are willing to run for office and try to take control of these 7 areas of society.
And we are not. So, God says, I'm going to send you a revival. And we're praying for revival. And as we pray for revival, we think, well, watch what happens. That 30 will become 50%. It doesn't matter, because the guards in the prison control what goes on with the inmates. You could have 75%. And if they control those high places, you still are in suppression, because that's the story of history. So it's not just in having more. We certainly want souls. In eternity, that's the most important thing. And this is, Mario, where a lot of people get confused. Isn't the kingdom more important? Isn't Jesus more important? Isn't souls more important? Of course, this isn't either or. It's both and. We want souls and we want nations. Jesus was promised nations for his inheritance, not just churches.
So anyways, that's the plan for world domination. Evangelical Christians stole this from the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, this anti-Semitic conspiracy theory document published in 1905, originally 1902 to 1905, in Tsarist Russia. And you know what else is fascinating? The Middle East absolutely hates Israel. Oh my God, they hate them. Now, there's an explanation for why a lot of Middle Eastern countries don't like Israel, and the explanation is because they've horrifically oppressed and committed genocide on a lot of people in Palestine. But you know what? The Middle East actually hated Israel before Israel, they hated Jews before Israel even existed as a country. Came into existence about 1947, 1948. But all through the 1900s, specifically during Stalin's reign, Stalin was having the KGB, the USSR's secret police, like the CIA kind of. He was having them pass out copies of the Protocols of the Elders of Zion to all of the countries in the Middle East: Saudi Arabia, Iran, Egypt, Palestine, so on and so forth. He's passing them out all over the place for people to read. That was the heart of the anti-Semitism in the Middle East, and it just grew larger and larger and larger from there. So that should give you a little bit of context for what the Protocols of the Elders of Zion is, and how evangelicals are rebranding it to be useful to them. That should provide a little bit of context. I know that took a little while, but that should provide context for what Lance Wallnau is saying here. After listening to him explain his plan for world domination, continue listening to what he says here.
So here's what's really an awakening for me. I never realized when I started presenting and teaching on 7 mountains of culture 20 years ago.
What I wonder is, did this guy read the Protocols of the Elders of Zion and create the 7 Mountains mandate himself, or did somebody else do it, or what? Like, who sat down and read this document? Because they repeat things word for word out of Protocols. I mean, it's uncanny how similar the things are. It's too much for coincidence. They copied it straight out of the Protocols of the Elders of Zion. Somebody did. The evangelical 7 Mountains dominionism belief system is too close to be a coincidence.
I really thought media, arts, entertainment, and government were the ones to watch. I can't believe how dumb I was not to realize that education was the one you have to watch, because you raise your leaders, as Dinesh was saying. You know, you've got your future editors and Wall Street HR guys and gals coming out of these
And non-binary pals?
woke universities. Now, here's the deal. They teach kids what to think. They don't teach them how to think.
Yeah, and how to think is thinking from a biblical perspective, thinking about Jesus, right? That's what he wants. That's what this guy wants to see. It's absolutely insane. I mean, he's talking about a plan straight out of an anti-Semitic conspiracy theory document that's existed for 150 years. I don't know. If this isn't insane, I don't know what is. It's crazy.
So if they're that vulnerable that one edited letter on TikTok can deconstruct your whole understanding of history and Western civilization, you never learned it in the first place.
Okay, it's not one edited letter. These kids just read, I mean, what was it, like 270 people. These kids just read Protocols of the, I'm sorry, God. These kids just read Osama bin Laden's letter for the first time and found that it was talking a lot about Palestine and Israel and how absolutely horribly Israel has treated people. I mean, they didn't go down further, apparently, but all of that's true. And it wasn't edited, it was factual. Well, at least the first portion was. Osama bin Laden was a propagandist, though, so I can't stress enough that the letter was propaganda. But it was also just a psychotic stream of consciousness, really no different than Mein Kampf. Mein Kampf was psychotic and insane. There was nothing to learn from Mein Kampf. Like, I thought about reading it. The whole book, it's long, apparently. It means my struggle. I understand it's just like a big, long, like, it's obviously written by someone who is very mentally ill and didn't know how to string his thoughts together in a coherent way, and it was just like hate-filled garbage. So I decided it's not even worth the time, you know.
So if they're that vulnerable that one edited letter on TikTok can deconstruct your whole understanding of history and Western civilization, you never learned it in the first place.
Well, people are vulnerable to propaganda. That's just the fact of the matter, and there really is not much that you can do to fix that. Just try to prepare people for propagandistic framing and lies and stuff. But even that, you know, you're going to pick off a percentage of people. That's just going to happen, unfortunately.
If Christianity can be deconstructed by somebody, that you're listening to on TikTok, you never had a very thorough foundation to begin with. So
No, I had a thorough foundation. Now, it wasn't broken down for me on TikTok, but it was one singular statement that was made to me that broke it all for me. It shattered it. So it might as well have been a TikTok video. Hell, it could have been a 15-second TikTok video that pulled me out of the whole thing, out of all of this, out of Jehovah's Witnesses, effectively. Could have been. The thing that pulled me out of Christianity originally, out of Jehovah's Witnesses specifically, was somebody telling me, it was my brother-in-law at the time, he said, do you know that Joseph Rutherford, the president of the Watchtower Society for a long time, one of the leaders, the second leader, basically, of Jehovah's Witnesses for a while, do you know he had a mansion built for himself in the 1930s, middle of the Great Depression, deeded it to Bible characters, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob and stuff, and just lived in it to keep it warm for them? That was the thing that broke it all open for me. I know it was just a little thing, but when I realized that they were scam artists, it kind of shattered the rest of it, because Jehovah's Witnesses had spent the previous, 20 years or something, convincing or explaining to me how everybody else, every other religion was incorrect. And when I realized they were incorrect as well, that's all it took. I threw it all out. I realized, everybody is full of shit. They're all scam artists. They're all trying to take advantage of people. So anyways, it might as well have been a short TikTok. It doesn't have to be long. All you have to do is realize how completely full of it people are.
That you're listening to on TikTok, you never had a very thorough foundation to begin with. So I really think we got to stop and realize that when we look at a year that's political and all the issues that will be decided, if we don't fundamentally reform the education and university system in America, we are setting up our own destruction because it's a propaganda factory that makes them vulnerable to manipulation like this.
Yeah, without a doubt.
What is he saying? Is he saying TikTok is a propaganda factory and that we need to get rid of it? Am I understanding what he said?
In America, we are setting up our own destruction because it's a propaganda factory that makes them vulnerable to manipulation like this.
Yeah, without a doubt. In fact, Charlie Kirk.
Yeah, it sounded like he was saying we should be getting rid of like TikTok and stuff.
Makes them vulnerable to manipulation like this.
Yeah, without a doubt. In fact, Charlie Kirk posted this. Why is everyone shocked a generation taught to hate America would embrace Osama bin Laden?
Okay, God, Charlie Kirk is the absolute worst, dude. He's insufferable. I cannot stand listening to him drone on and on about all of his garbage, but it's hard to beat Charlie Kirk in his propaganda efforts. But no one was taught to hate America. Complete nonsense.
He's right. He's right. Absolutely.
No, he isn't right.
Exactly what you're saying there, Lance. All right. I need to move along here. We got Dinesh D'Souza here because I want to talk about this new film, Police State. If you haven't heard about it, watch this.
Oh, my God. Now they're shouting out Dinesh D'Souza's new film. This guy, if you don't know him, is the same guy that created the movie 2000 Mules. And it made a huge splash in right-wing circles. It was very, very influential. Anyway, okay, let's keep listening to these people.
Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans represent an extremism that threatens the very foundations of our republic.
That's true, yes.
Chief Division Counsel and DOJ have approved a no-knock breach. We want the subject to be on display.
I'm sorry, wait a minute. What are we looking at? This is a trailer for Dinesh D'Souza's new movie, but what is happening in this right now? The FBI shows up to somebody's house?
Breach.
Just step back and watch.
Very foundations of our republic.
So it's a flashbang grenade. So basically, they throw those into houses when they're going to raid them, I think. So everybody is blinded. They can't see anything, right?
Chief Division Counsel and DOJ have approved a no-knock breach. We want the subject to be on display.
They've approved a no-knock. So they're portraying people being raided, right? Their homes are being raided, like MAGA Republicans, MAGA extremists are being raided just because of their beliefs, I guess, under Joe Biden's America.
The walk of shame, full visual impact. Any questions?
Are we becoming a police state?
No, we're not.
Government told American citizens they couldn't go to church on Sunday.
Oh my God, dude. See, this is how propaganda works right here. This is what I'm talking about. That is not what happened, all right? You were perfectly free to show up to church if your pastor held services in an open area that wasn't dangerous for people to gather in, like outside in the parking lot. Get a loudspeaker, get a little canopy to protect people from the sun, and hold services outside. There was nothing wrong with that. Space the chairs out 6 feet. Alternatively, inside, and wear masks. Take temperatures at the door. That was a choice. They didn't want to do that. I'm talking far-right extremists. They didn't want to do any of that. What did they do? Ignored it completely. They spaced the chairs even closer. They banned masks on their campuses, like Greg Locke banned masks. Not only did he just not ask people to wear masks, he straight up banned them.
We got 2 banners coming this week that says our campus is a mask-free church. Either kindly remove them or sit in your car. You can sit in your car. If you come to our church and you try to protest what I said by wearing a mask, we will escort you to the door.
What about people who have cancer? What about people who are genuinely sick. What about people with COVID? He's trying to spread it, apparently. They were intentionally acting as super spreaders, these pastors were.
We're not playing. We're a place of faith, not a place of fear.
Is that why you left your guns at home then? Because you're not a place of fear? Get rid of the masks, get rid of the guns, right? Anyway, the point is, people were perfectly free to do whatever they wanted. Show up and listen to a sermon outside. Space the chairs out. Wear masks. They didn't want to do that. They banned masks. They spaced them closer. And they refused to hold services outside. It was absolutely absurd. These people are absurd human beings.
Ever seen anything?
For the record, nobody was banned from listening to a church service. You could log in through Zoom or any of the other options. They didn't want to do any of that. They wanted to make it more dangerous for people.
Government told American citizens they couldn't go to church on Sunday.
I've never seen anything like it. It may be the Russia other people grew up in, but not my America.
FBI warrant, come to the door now!
There's a heavy banging at my door. Open up! There's 15 marked units on my property. I got SWAT in the back of my house.
They took a battering ram.
Dude, what are they talking about right now?
To my door.
6 a.m. I hear boom, 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 and hear about 6 to 8 military-style soldiers, with the tallest one of them pointing an automatic rifle at my head.
I don't know what they're talking about. I mean, they're framing it up as though people were being attacked for holding church services. That's not what happened. You know what happened, actually? I know exactly what happened. People who violated the essential services thing where you had to hold services outside or on Zoom or space the chairs out or whatever. People who refused to do those things, one pastor faced consequences for that. All of the others did whatever they wanted. It was completely ignored and forgotten about. This pastor was the loudest and most obnoxious, and he even went on Alex Jones to talk about how persecuted he was. Name is Tony Spell. I think he's in Louisiana, maybe? I don't remember. Okay, this is Tony Spell, if you don't know him. This is mid-January 2022.
There ought to be anger that rises up in us whenever the Secretary of Transportation,
Pete Buttigieg, he's gay,
who is the forerunner to be the President of the United States in
no, he isn't.
2024.
No. Pete Buttigieg is not even on the list.
For the Democratic Party, came off of a 2-month maternal leave.
No, paternity leave. Paternity. Does he even know what that word means, paternity?
It was not a woman, but it was a man that is married to a man. There ought to be anger inside of everybody here today that says something's wrong with our world. Something is wrong with people that can stand idly by and accept this as normal.
So anyway, yeah, that's Tony Spell, if you were wondering. He also tried to run down a protester who was protesting the fact that his church was open. Dude's standing at his church holding a sign saying that he's, getting people killed, basically, or something like that.
He just pulled as far over under the shoulder as he could without hitting me. He was maybe 6 inches away. So, and that happened nearly instantaneously. It was just suddenly there's a guy driving 45 miles an hour a few inches from you. I was just shocked and then more shocked. Like, at first I just assumed he was actually trying to turn around his bus. He kept hammering his horn the whole time until he turned around in his driveway.
This is another. So he did this twice to this guy, at least, maybe 3 times. I don't remember. He was in a bus and he had no idea where the guy was. He's just backing the bus up and hoping he hit him.
Then he stopped and started backing up at me. By the time it was actually close enough to hit me, I was just kind of in shock.
Oh my God, dude. Tony Spell had no idea where this guy was. He very easily could have killed him.
I don't think the pastor could see me anymore, so I don't think it was necessarily intent to not hit me as much as it might have been luck. When the bus stopped...
Yeah, it was completely luck.
This is about the time I fully realized what's going on. I don't like being attacked. I don't think anyone does. I'm exercising the same right that he's trying to say. He's going with his First Amendment rights to assemble, and I have my First Amendment rights to protest.
So, yeah, anyway, that's Tony Spell. And for doing that, I don't remember what he got charged with. Attempted murder? No, that wasn't it. I don't remember what it was, but anyway, he ended up getting arrested for attacking the protester multiple times like that on camera. I'm actually going to speed this up, do playback speed 2. So he's walking, got his Bible in hand. He sees the cops, walks the other direction. Whoop, trying to get away from him. Benny Hill music should be playing. Anyway, he gets arrested. They take his Bible, they give it to the other guy, and he wanted to make a big show of everything, of course. And then he looks at the camera. Do you see that? He looked at the camera. This is a joke, dude. He knew what he was doing. And then he did this whole big tour around the country claiming that he was being persecuted for being a Christian. Just a joke.
We have not complied in 18 months, nor will we comply with the next round of shutdowns, mask mandates, vaccine mandates.
There were no vaccine mandates. There was a mandate to space the chairs out 6 feet, check temperatures at the door, and wear masks if you're inside, or hold services outside, or hold services on Zoom. He didn't do any of those things. Anyways, yeah, that's the most visible case. He was arrested for trying to run over a protester.
About 6 to 8 military-style soldiers, with the tallest one of them pointing an automatic rifle at my head.
FBI, we have an arrest warrant!
I don't even know what they're portraying here. This is not I followed these cases really, really closely. I don't remember this ever happening to anybody. Tony Spell was arrested, and you guys saw that. That wasn't a big deal. That was just him being arrested, and that's it. And he got out, the next day, so...
Shock you out of sleep, drag you out of your house half clothed, refuse to give you a warrant, ransack your house.
Now I'm facing 15 years in federal prison
for doing nothing other than exercising my right to free speech.
No, that's not what happened. Nobody faced 15 years in prison for attending a church service. It's completely made up. I mean, is this just supposed to be is it quote unquote based on a true story, i.e. completely made up? Is that what they're trying to communicate? I'm not even sure.
Prison
for doing nothing other than exercising my right to free speech.
I had no reason to be attacked.
I hope that you remember Matt's name and the role you played in killing him.
Wait, what was that? What did it say?
That you remember Matt's name and the...
Capitol writer Matthew Perna faces 20 years. Oh, they're complaining about... Okay, so I thought that they were talking about being locked up in jail for attending a church service. That's not what they were doing. They're complaining about people being charged with a crime for participating in the insurrection on January 6th. Okay. God, this is insane propaganda, seriously. I mean, you're seeing how they're framing this up as them just being persecuted when it was actually them doing the illegal acts, right?
The role you played in killing him.
How did we give the state this kind of power?
9/11 changed everything.
We're going to expand the Bureau from law enforcement to domestic intelligence.
Okay, this is what I agree with largely. The Patriot Act was a bad thing. I do not like it at all. But they're framing it up like the FBI is evil because they're chasing down terrorists, and these people happen to be terrorists. The January 6 people, Dinesh D'Souza, and anybody. He's supporting terrorists. Look, this isn't really happening on the left right now. I mean, I understand there have been left-wing eco-terrorists. For example, the Unabomber did what he did for left-wing reasons. We were destroying the planet and stuff, and that was all over his manifesto. I denounce that. See how simple that is? Denounce evil things. Denounce terrorism. Boom. Just like that. That's all they have to do. They're not denouncing terrorism. They are, Dinesh D'Souza and the people who are producing this film, this trailer, is endorsing terrorism and framing terrorists up as the innocent, persecuted people. Insane.
Legal shackles are now off.
It used to be Islamic terrorism. That threat has kind of dissipated.
Our focus is shifting.
They're moving to domestic extremism. It really paints anybody who's right of center. What we need.
No, it doesn't paint people right of center as a domestic terrorist. It paints domestic terrorists as domestic terrorists. And if you can't see that what's happening right now is domestic terrorism on the far right, you're probably one of those domestic terrorists.
As a person to look at, and then we go find out what crime you did.
If you're a pro-life, pro-family Catholic, they define you as radical. The demand...
No, are you kidding me? Pro-life, pro-family Catholic? Joe Biden is a pro-life, pro-family Catholic. Of course, Biden doesn't think that public policy should force other people to follow his belief system or whatever. He doesn't think that others should be forced to do what he believes. So he is in favor of people's rights to choose, even though he would never choose abortion. But yeah, this is just completely fabricated. This is just fabricated persecution porn, if you will.
If you're a pro-life, pro-family Catholic, they define you as radical.
The demand for domestic terrorism vastly outstrips the supply.
The demand for domestic terrorism? I don't understand what that even means.
Demand for domestic terrorism vastly outstrips the supply.
When candidate Trump came down the escalators, the government had a meltdown.
We are going to drain the swamp.
We'll see about that.
You take on the intelligence community, they have 6 ways from Sunday at getting back at you.
The Patriot Act and FISA
Dude, I have no idea what they're talking about here.
were used against Donald Trump.
Google literally rewrote their news algorithm based upon what Trump was doing so they could get this guy.
Yeah, all of this is made up. This is completely fabricated. What they said a second ago, listen to this one more time. Hang on.
Intelligence community, they have 6 ways from Sunday at getting back at you.
The Patriot Act and FISA were used against Donald Trump.
The Patriot Act and FISA were used against him? No. This is the claim that Donald Trump was being monitored by the FBI. What really happened was during the 2016 election, the FBI was doing what they always do, which is monitoring known spy networks and stuff like that. They were monitoring Russian spy networks that they knew were operating in the United States. And bizarrely, people from Donald Trump's campaign, Donald Trump's children, Eric and Don Jr. and others, were calling these known Russian spies. And it's like, why is a presidential candidate talking to known Russian spies, not just once, but like a number of times? So the FBI started an investigation into Donald Trump's campaign called Operation Crossfire Hurricane to figure out like why this was going on. And eventually the investigation was closed when Donald Trump became the president. Interesting timing, huh? That's what they're talking about, I assume.
Google literally rewrote their news algorithm based upon what Trump was doing so they could get this guy.
Completely made up.
You just take out the word Russiagate and you put in COVID origins. You take out COVID origins and you put in Hunter Biden's laptop. You take that out and you put in January 6th. It's the replicated.
Oh, this is Kash Patel. He's a QAnoner, and he's an extremely influential figure in QAnon. And he was also the Secretary of Defense or something. He ran the Pentagon, I believe. He was extremely high up in the military.
Play from the deep state and their partners in the media.
They're not just deplatforming you. They are trying to throw people in prison.
If they're coming for me, they're coming for you.
Hands on your head!
These are... Well, I mean, yeah, if you are a domestic terrorist, sure, absolutely. Most definitely.
We're anti-government.
We have freedom of religion and freedom of speech.
Violent extremists.
And I mean, this is all like... yeah, this church just happened to have like high quality cameras set up in the church from multiple angles, and all of the cops knew not to look at the cameras when they came in, right? I mean, this is all staged. It's fake. None of this happened. Get help, people.
We
have freedom of religion and freedom of speech.
Violent extremists, and they must be dealt with. We can do anything we want.
Are you next? Yeah, you are next. If you are a domestic terrorist, I would like to think, I hope.
Police State. Exclusively in theaters, October 23rd and 25th.
God, that's crazy. Police State. Insane, dude.
Tickets sold only on policestatefilm.net.
All right, Police State, Dinesh, the film is, a few years ago, I mean like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, we would have thought, oh, it's Hollywood kind of going kind of crazy. Yet what you covered in this film is exactly, we know all of these things to be happening here.
No, they're not. I just talked about all of the examples of this stuff happening to any degree, in any way, or whatever. This is not happening. Completely made up, all of it. These people just straight up live in a fantasy land, dude, where they are like victims 24/7. It's nuts.
Now, ever since COVID, does it all go back to the Patriot Act? Is that where we went off the rails?
Dude, I love that these people are like talking smack about the Patriot Act now. This fascinates me because these were the people that were in favor of the Patriot Act originally. These people wanted it. They pushed it through. They pretended nothing was happening because it meant that they could monitor and jail Muslims at will, and they did. There are Muslims that are to this day in jail right now. Florence Supermax, FDX Supermax, that didn't deserve it. That the FBI set up to do this stuff. I think it's called the Dixon 5. In my opinion, it was just wrong. The way that it all happened was wrong. Anyways, point is, these people were these people were all in favor of the Patriot Act until 5 minutes ago.
Well, it is true that some of it historically goes back to 9/11 and the fear in people after 9/11. Fear is often
the fear that these people used against others, the fear that they instilled in others to convince them that some nefarious plot was happening or whatever. This is insane.
Way to get people to surrender liberties that they wouldn't otherwise give up. But it wasn't just 9/11. Then you fast forward to COVID, you fast forward to January 6th. So there were various pretexts for moving the police state forward, but the direction is the same. I mean, you're quite right that I could not have made a film like this, 5, not even 3 years ago. People would think I'm doing the film about like North Korea, China, one of the other classic police states. But if you look at the defining features of police states, what do they have in common? They have mass surveillance of citizens. They have censorship. They have ideological indoctrination in schools and the media, propaganda.
Yeah, okay. I'm agreeing I'm agreeing with all that so far, I think. Dinesh D'Souza, though, is convinced that there's a police state in favor of Democrats and against Republicans right now in the United States. This is Fantasyland shit right here.
Propaganda. They tend to be one-party states. They try to lock up the leader of the opposition party. They criminalize dissent. They suppress religious liberty.
These people being what they believe to be the persecuted minority that they are absolutely obsessed with the idea that they are the ones that this is happening to, that they're the victims here, that Joe Biden is after them. This is just insane.
They have political prisoners. So kind of go down that checklist and ask which of those features do we now see in America? And the shocking answer is
literally none of those things.
All of them.
Yeah, it's staggering. It's staggering. As I was watching even the trailer there, I was comparing that to actual news stories that we know have happened.
Well, lay them on me then. Tell me what they are. If you believe that pastors are going to jail simply for holding church service, or church attendees are going to jail for attending, show me the articles. Lay them on me. They don't exist.
What was the most surprising thing you discovered on your path of making this film?
Well, I wanted to have two kinds of people in the film. One is whistleblowers, informants, people who know the origin, but also the architecture of the police state. How is it put together? I think most Americans don't have a good understanding of that. How does it work? Who's in charge?
That's interesting. It's fascinating to me that they're setting up like this question in the first place. How are these police states set up? Because there is no police state actually. And these people like live in this fantasy land where they are the victims of a police state that does not actually exist. This is really interesting to me.
And then on the other side, I wanted to have a lot of ordinary people that are just going about their normal lives. They might be civically involved. In other words, I'm a mom. I'm concerned about what my children are learning. I'm a pro-life activist. And then, bam, they come face to face with the police state with what Orwell calls the boot stamping on the human face. And the reason I wanted to have a lot of ordinary people is I wanted to answer the guy who says, hey, Dinesh, I'm not Donald Trump, and I didn't go inside the Capitol on January 6th, and I pay my taxes, so I'm okay. I'm never going to have to worry about the weaponization of government or the FBI showing.
There you go. Exactly. I don't break the law flagrantly, so I don't have to worry about somebody coming after me to, like, arrest me. Yeah, there you go.
Up at my door, and my message to that guy is, you couldn't be more wrong.
Okay, well, when we see it, then you know what? When we see something like that happen, I will stand up with somebody who is being arrested for no reason or for trumped up reasons. I will stand with him. But so far, we haven't seen that the way that these people seem to believe that we have.
It doesn't really matter, does it, Lance? I'll bring you into the conversation here. You saw the trailer, police state, what Americans are dealing with. It really is brokering fear in a new way than we've ever seen before.
It's brokering fear. Is that what he said?
Americans are dealing with. It really is brokering fear in a new way than we've ever seen before.
Oh, dude, I love it. Yes, absolutely. The movie Dinesh is producing, or has produced and is about to release, definitely brokers fear in a way we haven't seen. Agreed.
Yeah, and it has a kind of a gritty intensity that 2000 Mules didn't approach. I wanted to ask Dinesh, what does he anticipate the viewing audience on this to be? How many Americans will see this movie if it gets the kind of distribution of 2000 Mules and maybe 20% more?
Well, I mean, 2000 Mules was seen by a large number of people.
It actually was. 2000 Mules was extremely popular in Trumpist nutcase circles, and I considered covering it on my channel, but I didn't. Yeah, not worth it. It's pointless. It was debunked by others, so I'll just leave it at that,
Would estimate 25 million people. This film is a long way from there.
25 million people. I don't know if that's true. That's pretty high. I'm extremely skeptical.
Would estimate 25 million people. This film is a long way from there, but I think it will slowly get there. And I say that because it's a film that leaves people deeply shocked. I mean, I've stood in the theater, people are crying, they're hugging each other. It's very emotional. Right. This film is...
Yeah, it's called propaganda. Propaganda is commonly very emotional. That happens.
Far more cinematic than 2000 Mules. You're quite right. 2000 Mules, because it's focusing just on electronic surveillance, cell phone geo-tracking. There's a technical aspect to that film. But this is a film that not only has, clinically recreated FBI raids that I hired FBI agents to help me do those things so that the language, the weaponry, the whole thing would be so authentic that anyone watching from the FBI or the DHS, the Homeland Security Department, would be like, wow, that's exactly how that would have gone down.
Well, realism is good. I can appreciate realism, but unfortunately, there is nothing actually realistic about this situation because this never happened and is not going to happen. People aren't going to be arrested for attending church services in the U.S. It's just not happening.
Plus, I have data.
You know what? If it happens, I will eat my shoes on air, publicly, live. If people start getting arrested simply for holding church service and talking about God, I'll eat my shoes.
security department would be like, wow, that's exactly how that would have gone down. Plus, I have dash cam footage, surveillance footage, so I'm able to actually take you inside a guy's apartment, and you can see the FBI, thugs coming up the steps, cutting out some tape to cover his camera so that nobody can record what's going on, pulling out a massive battering ram and coming in through his door.
The gall. Yeah. Guess what? That's how people get arrested when they're domestic terrorists. How do you think other domestic terrorists are arrested? You think that they're just invited in calmly and nicely to have a nice, neat little chat, and when they find out that he's a Trump supporter, they just let him go? It's not how it works, man. He knows that. He's a propagandist.
And you're watching that from inside the apartment. So this is the kind of stuff you see in the film, and it's kind of mind-blowing.
It is mind-blowing. And Lance, I mean, in this film, what he's referring to, that's actual footage. It isn't dramatic recreation. I mean, it's...
No, it's all dramatic recreation. Maybe he has some footage of one guy being arrested for being an insurrectionist on January 6th. By the way, not everybody on January 6th was an insurrectionist. Some of them were just rioters that were unwitting. They had no idea what was going on. They were being used cynically by people who did know what was going on, like the leaders of the Oath Keepers and the Proud Boys and others. They knew what was happening, and they intentionally set out to manipulate people, take advantage of them, and scare the shit out of them, and convince them that they were being attacked, and blah, blah, blah. That's what the leaders of the movement did to them. The people who got charged with insurrection or sedition or whatever against the U.S., those people were sentenced to like 20 years or something like that. A long time. They were sentenced to a lot of time. And normal people who were just like involved in the riots or whatever, that were not actual full-blown insurrectionists, they only got like 3, 4, or 5 years. Like the QAnon shaman, he's out of jail now and going around and doing his tours around the country on these right-wing media networks and stuff. The Oath Keepers, the leader of the Oath Keepers, he'll be in there for, God, till he's like 70 or something. He's not getting out anytime soon.
The actual footage. What was surprising to me with the guy putting the tape over the peephole so you couldn't see who he was. It was good. John, wow. You hear what this film is. I mean, were you surprised at all this that we're dealing with in America in this police state?
We don't live in a police state. These people are not victims. They are actually perpetrators. These people are actually guilty of crimes. Not the people on screen, I assume. The people that they're talking about that were arrested are guilty of crimes. They are such victims. Give me a break, dude.
I'll tell you what, let's just pretend that in 2019, I went into a coma and I just came out right now and I saw that. I would say that you people have lost your minds.
Yeah, because that's propaganda. That's how it's supposed to be portrayed.
Except I was there in 2020 and I could not believe how many people were fine with it. I can't believe how many churches said, yeah, we'll shut down forever.
See, they're conflating things. That first of all, the churches didn't say we'll shut down forever. And second, that's not what the movie purported to be about. It started out as though it was about that, and then it ended up being about January 6 rioters and insurrectionists, seditionists. My God, dude, the persecution complex on these people is wild.
I can't believe that even when pastors, there's lots of them, lots of Pentecostal pastors, as well as Pastor John MacArthur in California. He said, no, I'm opening up my church. We're gonna defy this unlawful, deal that's going on. I can't believe the amount of.
Dude, what is he talking? Unlawful deal? What?
He said, no, I'm opening up my church. We're gonna defy this unlawful, deal that's going on. I can't believe the amount of evangelical leaders that rebuked Pastor MacArthur and these other pastors.
Talking about John MacArthur, he was one of the biggest and most influential people to refuse to refuse to do online meetings, even spaces chairs out 6 feet. Like, people weren't even asking him not to hold services. They were asking him to space his chairs out. And he said no. I actually have a video of this, and it was really hard to obtain. So these were really, really difficult to find. And despite a court order, he completely ignored a court order to space his chairs out, take temperatures at the door, have people wear masks, hold services outside, or hold them on Zoom. Any of those would be fine options. He refused. He said no. And despite the court order, he showed up anyways, and this happened.
We're having church.
By the way, people actually died as a result of what he did here.
It's actually hard to figure out exactly what the city is trying to do.
Get you to save lives.
With us.
Like, I could have told you that. You could have just asked.
To us, but we know they don't want us to do exactly what we're doing right now. And we're not meeting. We're not meeting because we want to be rebellious.
That's exactly why they're meeting.
We're meeting because our Lord has commanded us to come together and worship him.
You can do that. Nobody is stopping you. You just had to hold services outside or take some basic precautions. He refused.
There was a court order that granted this church and this church alone the right to meet indoors. And
did you catch that? Indoors. Meet indoors. So no one was preventing him from meeting. You just had to do it in a parking lot, outside, or something, anything. Take some precautions.
Powers of the city were not happy about that. They were going to be asking us to do two things, social distance and wear masks. We agreed, look, we'll comply for a few weeks. They asked that for 3 weeks. We're not wanting to be defiant. We will do what is
not wanting to be defiant, he says, we'll do what's necessary. Come on, man.
Reasonable. That was not enough for the city, so they went to the appellate court at the last minute on Saturday late and had that order removed.
So anyways, yeah, the point is that they pretended to be like these poor persecuted people. God, it's such a joke, man. Shortly before that or after that? Wait, this was on August 16th, 2020 when this video came out. Late August 2020. So I'm not sure if it was before or after. I think shortly after that. He comes out and says this. This one was really hard to obtain, this video. And it doesn't exist anymore. It's been removed from literally everything everywhere. If you want a copy of any video, any clip that I play, it can be accessed by going to owenmorgan.com/clips. Not selling you anything. It's 100% free. I just don't want these to be lost to time. If you go there, it links you to Dropbox, and you can download anything. It's ordered by date that I covered it.
I haven't made really any comments about COVID or the lockdown and whatever else is going on in what is called a pandemic.
In what is called a pandemic.
I don't want to offer myself as any kind of an expert, but a rather telling report came out this week. And for the first time, we heard the truth. The CDC...
So just think about when this released. Late February 2020 is when things started getting serious and everybody started, cracking down and wearing masks of their own free will. It wasn't like they were being told to do this or that or whatever. It was people were afraid. So they started wearing masks and being careful and staying home of their own free will. And so that was basically early March, pretty much, right? And this was 6 months after that, roughly. This guy comes out here and says this stuff. 6 months later, everybody was staying inside. PPP money had just been dispersed, stimulus packages, and unemployment was expanded as well. That's what was happening in this moment in time. Everybody was staying home and feared for their lives. You didn't know what was going on or anything at all. And he says this.
CDC, the Centers for Disease Control, which is the national organization, government organization that is to report to us the truth about disease, said that, in truth, 6% of the deaths that have occurred can be directly attributable to COVID.
So everything that he says here is a lie, by the way. Like, he twists this completely out of proportion and makes it seem like COVID was not as bad as it actually was, when we all know it was as bad as everybody thought it was. Even worse, maybe.
94% cannot. Of the 160,000 people that have died, 9,210 actually died from COVID. There is no pandemic.
What a wild thing to say. At that moment in history, there is no pandemic. Holy shit, dude. And like YouTube and a whole bunch of other platforms were so like disturbed and disgusted by what this guy said in that moment that they removed it from their platforms. They're like, we cannot, like, we're not putting this out. We're not hosting this. This is disgusting, man, for real. So yeah, that's John MacArthur. That's who they're talking about right now on this on Flashpoint. This guy. Absolutely disgusting stuff, man, for real. So let's continue listening to John Cooper just talk about how much he loves John MacArthur. I don't know how to say it any more politely.
Of evangelical leaders that rebuked Pastor MacArthur and these other pastors that I aforementioned, telling them that they are supposed to obey the state. It reminds me of what you read about with Dietrich Bonhoeffer in Germany in the 1940s.
He's comparing COVID to Hitler in Germany in the 1940s. Seriously. This is insane.
He's speaking out against Hitler on his radio show. He's a Christian, and he's trying to get these pastors to understand what's going to happen. And he just keeps getting rebuked by fellow Christian leaders, telling him to be quiet, keep it all about the gospel. This isn't what Jesus wants you to do.
No, that's accurate. Yes, that's absolutely true. Correct. These people are shameless, dude. For real. These people are shameless. They just lie for a living.
And I just think that sometimes I don't know why it's got to be that way. I truly believe that if the church in America would just rise up and act like the church, I think we would see all of this turn back around. I think that America would once again love freedom. We'd learn how to love our neighbor again. But I tell you what, we've got to wake up. The church has got to regain its Holy Spirit power and its moral confidence.
Dinesh, what are you hoping to gain? What do you want to see happen in America with this film?
Well, the film is being blocked and suppressed in various kinds of ways. We have had sort of cyber attacks on our website. Amazon and Walmart won't sell our DVDs. If you let me say.
Well, cyber attacks on your website. Yeah, welcome to the club, bro. I get cyber attacks on my website all the time. This is just part of owning a website. Like, this happens to everybody. And he's acting like some persecuted poor guy that everybody hates because of this. And yeah, guess what? It's a free market. I thought this dude loved capitalism. What happened to all that? Amazon is not obligated to host your propagandistic garbage.
PoliceStateFilm.net is kind of the one-stop shop to watch this movie. So if you go to PoliceStateFilm.net, you can stream it you have your choice.
All right, now they're shouting out where you can find all this stuff. Anyway, hey, maybe we'll cover it. Maybe I'll cover it on my channel. You know what? I'm going to write this down. Police State Film. It's hard to cover movies because they're so, there's a lot of copyright stuff involved. Police State Film. We'll see if maybe we can cover it on my channel. But anyway, that's insane. That's insane. Let me know what you think about this. I guess this is about the end where they're just shouting their stuff out now. Yep, just shouting out all of his stuff. Just terrible. Anyway, tell me what you think about it in the comments. This is just cringy garbage.